This is a pot full of Streptocarpus babies. They've been growing from leaf cuttings, and I want to show you today how to harvest them. We're going to talk about when you should harvest, and I'll go through the whole process and show you how to harvest those babies. These are leaves from a plant called Sunny Baltic, and it's one of my favorite Streptocarpus. Very colorful, and the flowers are quite large. It's one I give to a lot of my friends, so I like to have new plants coming along. So I have giveaway plants. That's really why I'm propagating these. So how did we get here? About 10 weeks ago, I took leaf cuttings and put them in the soil. And I have a separate video to show you how to do that, and I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. For about 4 weeks, not much happens. The leaves do make roots, but of course you don't see anything above ground. What I do is I come along and give them a little tug, and once they don't move, you know they have roots. Then you have to wait another 4 to 8 weeks on top of that until the babies come out. What I have noticed is that some cultivars make those babies very quickly, and other cultivars are quite slow. So at one point I had 6-7 different cultivars, and they all came pretty quick except Gothica, which is a very dark black almost. And it took forever to make babies. You just have to have patience. Eventually they will make babies. So it takes about 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and you have a pot like this. So now let's ask an important question. When should you harvest these babies? The answer really depends on you and your goals. You can take them when they're quite small. As long as you have a baby plant that has at least one little root, you can break it off the mother plant and pot it up. If you do that, the old leaf will keep making more babies. So it is a good way to propagate if you want lots of babies. Now, as a home gardener, I usually don't want too many. And it's much easier if you don't rush the process. So I like to wait until the leaves are a little larger. I'll have a few less babies that way, but they're a little easier to handle. And I recommend, particularly for new gardeners, wait. Have some patience. There's no rush here. Once these leaves start overlapping and they're not getting enough light, it is time to get them out of the pot because they'll stop growing. Leaves need light, and each one of these leaves should be getting lots of light. And when it gets too crowded, always time to separate them. And I think this pot is just about right. Now let me show you how to do that. My favorite tool for doing this is an old steak knife. It's pointed so I can get at small things. It's also serrated, so if I have to cut anything, it works really well. Here's a couple other tools I might use. My small scissors, which I use mostly for cutting leaves, and then tweezers for pulling out the small stuff. If you have a look at this pot, you'll see this large leaf here. That's one of the mother leaves, and it's made a couple babies. Here's another one. There's another mother leaf here. You can tell it's a mother leaf because it's a little darker in color. That's a mother leaf, and then it's made some babies too. And in fact, I think this baby's attached to this leaf, and so is this one. And there's a couple other smaller babies over here. Easiest way to deal with this is just to dump the whole thing out and have a look at what we have. Sometimes the roots grow together, and I find the easiest way to separate them is to grab the two sides and then slowly rotate and pull. You will break some roots that way, but a lot of them come loose on their own. So here's some nice growths. Let's start with this one first. This is a full leaf cutting with the main vein going down the middle here. This cutting I did a little differently. I took half a leaf. So here's the side, and the vein is running here. But instead of putting it sideways like a lot of people do it, I just put it in vertically. Either one will work. Because we've waited and these babies are nice and large, they're pretty easy to pull off. And in fact, they almost come off by themselves. So I can just pull this off the mother leaf. If I do it gently, I'll have roots on both sides. So you'll notice the mother leaf has lots of roots. And the baby also has roots. So that can be potted up. The back side of this leaf has also made a baby, and I can pull it off as well. Try to be as gentle as possible. Look at that, a really nice set of roots here. Some more coming out here. That will grow into a nice plant very quickly. Okay, well, what about this leaf? The mother leaf is still nice and green. It has roots. I don't see any more babies coming. But if I take this leaf and pot it up, it will make more babies. I just have to wait. So now I can decide, well, how many of these babies do I really want? If I want to keep propagating this leaf, I'll pot it up again. Now there's another way of doing this. Oh, here's one baby that just fell off on its own. Now on this leaf, I have a very small baby here. And at this size, it doesn't have a lot of roots, but it will have its own roots at this point. And then I have a larger one over here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this one off and try to keep the other baby with the mother leaf. So there's a really nice set of roots. And this baby still attached to the mother leaf, so I'm going to pot it up just like this. This little guy is getting nourishment from this larger leaf, so there's no point in separating these. Now in this case, the mother leaf is getting old, and you can see it's starting to decompose here. A brown spot here, another little one here. It still has some active roots, so I could pot it up. And I think there's another little baby coming right here. But because it's starting to rot, I'll probably just throw that one away because I have enough now. This clump is actually several plants together. There's one that came off quite easily. This part of the clump is actually 2 plants and maybe even a third one coming here. No, I don't think so. I think it's just 2 plants. So what do you do here? You really have a couple of options. I can split this in half and make 2 plants, grow them both up, or I can leave them together and pot this up the way it is. If I do this, this will form a large mature plant faster than if I separate them. What you do with this really depends on your goal. Do you want a few of these to grow quicker, or are you trying to make as many of these as possible? I think I'm going to leave those together and just pot up the whole thing. So we have 1 clump left. This is the big leaf I showed you at the beginning. Now I'm going to show you a slightly different technique on this one. So we have 1 baby here and another one here. Both of them are attached to the mother leaf. So one thing you can do, and this will give you a faster growth on the babies, is cut them so that some of the mother leaf is attached to both of these. So I'll take my knife, and this is where the serrated edge comes in handy. And I'll just cut through the middle here. Now normally I do this at my potting bench, and I have some leather gloves that I wear, because you can cut yourself with this knife. Now I'll just keep cutting here and try to cut the mother leaf in half. So now I've got part of the leaf and a baby, and another piece of the mother leaf that's not as well attached, and another baby. And I'll just pot them up like that. What will happen with this is that I may get some more babies here, but the fact that this leaf stays attached is going to make this one grow much faster. So I'll have a mature plant sooner. Over the next 4 to 6 weeks, this mother leaf will slowly rot away. They'll just disappear. That's it. I've got all my babies. Now I have to go and pot them up. Here are the potted up plants. I ended up with 10 individual plants, and I threw away one of the old mother leaves that was starting to rot. These are individual plants. This is the piece of mother plant that doesn't have any babies on it anymore. And over here we've got a combination plant with the mother still attached, and the same with this one. I treat these the same way as I do the mother plants. Fertilize with an NPK ratio of 3:1:2, about 100 parts per million. Give them lots of light, water them well, then let them almost become dry, water again. I expect that the larger plants like this one and maybe this one, they should be flowering in 2 months. These little guys will take a little bit longer, but within 4 months these should all be flowering. Now that you know what to do with the babies, I want to show you how to actually make the baby. So in this video right here, I take you through the whole process of cutting up the leaves, taking care of the leaves, so you actually produce some baby. Have fun with your streps.